Maybe you can still hear it. Not now, but at some point in your day. That slight sound, almost imperceptible, of paws walking around the house, as if for a second nothing had changed, as if he were still there. And then the silence returns. And it is in this silence that the longing presses harder, because after he left, the house was never the same. Maybe there's a specific place in your house that still feels strange, empty, like it's waiting for something that never comes back. Or maybe you still find yourself looking at the door with that inexplicable feeling that he should be there, waiting for you, like he always did. Now tell me something. What if this feeling isn't just longing? What if it's not just memory? What if somehow he never really left? This video is not just about signs. It's not just about spirituality. It's about something almost every dog owner has felt, but can rarely explain. Here, you will understand why certain things continue to happen even after they leave. You will recognize signs that you may have already experienced, but never had the courage to interpret. And most importantly, you will discover why the bond you created with him may not have been meant to end. If you've ever felt something strange after your dog is gone, if you've ever had the feeling of not being completely alone, or if there's a part of you that still believes he might be around, so stay with me until the end, because what you will hear here could completely change the way you see this absence, and maybe transform that emptiness into something you never imagined. Now, pay attention to this. The silence in the house may not be as empty as it seems. After a dog leaves, it's not just his absence that remains. It's the small details that continue to exist, as if time had forgotten to take them with it. Maybe you still know exactly where he used to lie. That little corner of the house that no one uses anymore, but that somehow you avoid touching, as if changing that would erase the last piece of him that remained. And there's also the door. How many times did he wait for you there? How many times, before you even touched the doorknob, was he already on the other side, sensing you were coming? And now, even though he's not there anymore, there are moments when you look, almost on impulse, as if a part of you still expected to see him standing there, with that look that said it all, without needing a sound. Because that look, it wasn't just from one animal. It was from someone who understood you, even when no one else did. And that's what hurts the most. It's not just the lack of physical presence. It's the lack of connection. It is silence that replaced that constant companionship. Someone once commented on something that you might recognize. She said that for weeks after her dog left, she kept hearing footsteps around the house at night. Nothing scary, nothing intense, just familiar, as if he was still taking the same path as always, from the bedroom to the living room, from the living room to the door. At first, she thought it was just her mind trying to fill the void, but there was one night, at which point she stopped trying to explain, and he just felt it. He felt that same calm presence, the same feeling of never being alone. And it was there that something changed inside her, because the pain continued, but it no longer seemed so empty. Now I want you to be honest with yourself. After he left, did you really never feel anything again? Or is there something, no matter how small, that you have never been able to explain? Maybe what you feel isn't just longing. Maybe it's something you haven't yet learned to recognize. And the most curious thing is that this usually starts very subtly, almost imperceptible, but when you realize, it can no longer be ignored. At first, it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's so subtle that you almost ignore it. A light sound on the floor, as if something had passed quickly, the impression that something has moved in the corner of your vision, but when you look, there is nothing, and you follow. Try to rationalize. I attribute it to tiredness, to habit, to homesickness, but then it starts happening again. And again, at random times, without warning. Maybe you're alone at home, in silence, and suddenly you feel that strange feeling, as if I weren't so alone. It's not fear. It's not something heavy. It's familiar. This is exactly what is confusing, because it doesn't seem unfamiliar. It looks too recognizable, as if it were a presence that you already know, but you can't see it. And then the small details that break the logic begin. You enter a room, and for a second, you have the distinct feeling that someone has just left, or you're lying down, almost asleep, and you feel as if something has passed near you. Light, silent, but impossible to ignore completely. And the most curious thing, it's just that these moments don't bring despair. They bring a strange calm. If, deep down, some part of you recognize that, even if your mind tries to deny it. This is the point at which a lot of people start to question themselves. Is this just in my head? And almost always, the answer comes quickly. It must be, because it's easier to believe that. It's more comfortable to think it's just nostalgia, echoing in the places where he used to be. But let me show you something that few people realize. These experiences do not happen randomly. They follow standards. They happen at the same times, in the same places, in the same moments when, before, he would be there, as if some routine was still going on, even without physical presence. And when you start to notice this, it's impossible not to feel something different, because it no longer seems like just memory. It seems continuity. Now think with me. And if what you feel in these moments is not imagination, but yes, a type of presence that you haven't yet learned to recognize? Because what comes next? This is where this sensation stops being subtle and starts touching something deeper within you. This is where it all starts to get harder to ignore. Because it's no longer just a sound or a quick sensation. It's something that starts to mess with you inside. On the one hand, your mind tries to explain. It's just nostalgia. It's habit. You're used to his presence. But on the other side, there is something quieter, deeper, something that doesn't speak loudly, but insists on remaining. A feeling that maybe it's not just that. And this conflict is real, because you don't want to fool yourself. But he also can't ignore how he feels. There are moments when you almost accept that he is still around, and soon after, it corrects itself, as if he was trying to protect himself, as if believing that was too dangerous. One person told something that represents exactly this point. She said that after her dog left, she avoided going into the room where he slept for days, not because it hurt, but because it felt like he was still there, as if that space still had presence. Until one day she walked in, slowly, in silence, and when he looked at the place where he used to sleep, she felt it. He didn't see anything. He didn't hear anything, but she clearly felt that same calm energy that he always transmitted. And at that moment, she had two choices: ignore or accept. She left the room, but the feeling didn't leave her. And that's when she said something that struck. I realized I was trying to convince my mind of something that my heart had already understood. Maybe this sounds familiar to you, because this is not a logical conflict. It's emotional, it's internal, and it doesn't happen by chance. It happens because there is something inside you recognizing these signs before you can even explain. And it is at this point that an idea begins to emerge. An idea that, at first, seems absurd, but the more you feel it, the less absurd it becomes. What if he didn't leave the way you think? And if his absence isn't the end, but just a change in the way it continues to be present? This is the sentence that changes everything, Perhaps his absence is not the end, but a change in the form of his presence. When it starts to make sense, you stop trying to deny it, and he starts observing. And what do you start to notice from there? It goes far beyond what you imagined. Now, pay close attention, because what you will hear here is not theory. These are patterns that appear in the lives of people who have been through exactly what you have been through. And maybe you will recognize more than you would like. Take a deep breath for a second, because these signs are subtle, but when they make sense, they change everything. 1. The feeling of being followed around the house. You know when you're walking and you feel like there's something coming up behind you? But it's not fear. It's not discomfort. It's almost automatic. Familiar. As if, for an instant, you went back in time, and he was there, accompanying you as he always did. That habit of following you around the house, even when you didn't even realize it, and even after he left, that feeling keeps coming. 2. Sounds that should no longer exist. This is one of the most common. The soft sound of paws on the floor. A small talk that remembers exactly the way he walked, or even something more specific. The sound of the collar, the way he breathed when he was lying next to you. They are fast sounds, easy to ignore, but deeply recognizable. And the strangest thing, they appear precisely in moments of silence. 3. Dreams that seem more real than memories. These are not ordinary dreams. They are not confusing. They are clear, detailed. You see him, sit him down, interact, and for a few seconds, everything seems exactly as it was before. No pain, no absence, no goodbye. And when you wake up, it's not just the longing. A different sensation comes, as if that hadn't been just a dream. 4. Inexplicable reactions to certain places in the house. There are spaces that carry something. The place where he slept, the corner where he was waiting for you, the door, the sofa. And sometimes, you pass by these places and feel a change in the environment, a sudden feeling of presence, as if that space was still being occupied, somehow. And you stop, even without understanding why. 5. Presence in the most difficult moments. This is the deepest of all, because he doesn't show up all the time. He shows up when you need him, on heavy days, in moments of sadness, when you feel most alone. Suddenly, that feeling comes, calm, silent, but very clear, as if someone was there, accompanying you. And for a moment, the pain subsides. Don't disappear. But it changes. Now let me tell you something important. Before all this started, there is a moment when you stop trying to deny it, and you start to understand. This is the turning point, and if any of these signs have ever happened to you, don't ignore this, because it has a meaning behind it, and that's exactly what almost no one talks about, and that's what completely transforms the way you understand this connection. There is something that almost no one explains to you when you lose a dog. The pain, everyone understands. The longing, everyone recognizes it. But what comes after that, almost no one knows how to interpret, because we were taught to believe that when it's over, it's over. That presence depends on the body, that the bond ends along with the matter. But what if that's not the case? What if what you built with him wasn't just coexistence? What if it was something deeper, something that doesn't depend on time or the physical? Think with me. A dog doesn't choose to stay by your side by chance. He accompanies you on ordinary days, on difficult days, in moments when no one else sees. He notices changes in you before you even notice. He feels when you're feeling bad, without you needing to say anything. This is not just behavior, this is connection. And connections like this are not simple. They don't come out of nowhere, and much less disappear out of nowhere. There is an idea that is being increasingly discussed, not only in the spiritual field, but even in studies on behavior and emotional bonds, that certain bonds function as extensions of consciousness, as if part of that bond continued to exist, even after the physical separation, not like something stuck, but as something connected. Because there is an important difference here. They don't stay because they can't go. They stay because they choose to. They choose to stay close. They choose to remain present in a way that we are still learning to understand. And that changes everything, because it transforms loss into continuity. It transforms silence into another type of language, and transform that feeling you had into something that deserves to be heard and not ignored. Now I want you to think honestly. If this connection was real while he was here, why would it cease to exist completely just because you can no longer see it? Maybe what you feel not be absence. Maybe it's a presence in another form. And when you start to accept that, something inside you rearranges itself. The pain doesn't go away, but it gains meaning. And that's exactly what makes room for what comes next. Because when you understand why, you begin to realize something even deeper. Something that changes not only the way you see loss, but the way you understand the very bond you had. Now, come back with me for a moment. There at the beginning, that light sound, almost imperceptible, of the paws walking around the house. Maybe you thought it was just memory, just an echo of what was left. But after everything you've heard so far, is it really? Because maybe that sound isn't just a memory. Maybe it's the simplest way he found to say it's still around. And that completely changes the meaning of silence, because silence stops being empty, and it becomes a space where you can still feel, where presence does not need to be seen to exist. Maybe that's why certain places in the house still look different. Maybe that's why you still look at the door sometimes. Maybe that's why, at times, you feel a calm that you can't explain, as if, for a second, everything was exactly as before. And here's something that few people have the courage to accept. Not every bond was meant to exist just once. Some encounters are not coincidence. They are continuity. And maybe your dog wasn't just a companion, but someone who chose to walk with you, even after parting. Now tell me something. If he really found a way to stay around, would you be willing to notice, or will you continue to ignore what you have felt more than once? Because deep down, you know. And when you stop denying, you start to notice it more. Start recognizing small signs that previously went unnoticed, and that doesn't take away the longing, but it transforms her. Now, before I finish, I want to invite you to do something very simple, but very important. If you've ever felt any of these signs, or if you had an experience that you couldn't explain, count here. Don't keep it to yourself, because when you share, you realize you are not alone. And more than that, you help other people understand what they are feeling too. And if deep down you believe, even if it's just a little, that this bond is not over, right below, he's still with me, because maybe more people need to read this today. And before you go, pay attention once again, in the silence of your home, because maybe it's not as empty as you thought, and that sound that you swore was just a memory, it could be exactly the opposite. It could be presence.